Hoping to land that dream product role? AI is here and the job market is tougher than ever before. The best way to get ahead is to outwork your competition. Today we are talking about the 15 most popular product management interview questions that you must master to ensure you crush them before your competition does. Hey friends, welcome back. My name is Balaji. I used to be a product manager at companies such as Microsoft, Shopify, Twitter, now called X, and Pinterest, and I've held offers from companies such as Meta or Facebook, Reddit, Adobe, and a few others. We will talk about these 15 product management questions under 4 categories, starting with product sense, then product execution or analytical thinking, third, strategy, and finally, behavioral questions. Let's go. Product sense questions can be of 3 types. The first is to improve a pre-existing product. An example question would be, how would you improve Instagram Reels? The second type is to build a product around a certain topic. An example of this would be, build a travel product for Meta. In both of these prompts, they are essentially trying to understand your core product building skill set. Can you de-scope a really broad problem into something more digestible? Can you understand what the mission of the company really is and how these problems should be solved by this specific company? They also want to know how you view the world and how you see users of this kind of a product. And can you empathize with these users to understand their true friction points, create effective solutions for those friction points, and prioritize effectively? The third type of product sense question is the favorite product question, which is, what is your favorite product and how would you improve it? This is one of my favorite questions to tackle. But for this question, remember that the bar is much higher. If in the initial 2 product sense questions you came up with certain ideas for how you would improve, the bar is much higher for this question because you've had time to prepare for this in the past. One tip for this question would be to select your favorite product very carefully. If you pick a product that's already phenomenal, something like WhatsApp or Instagram, you're gonna have a hard time really making a radical improvement to that product because these products are already so amazing. So it is okay to pick those as your favorite product, but try to make sure that the improvement you're suggesting is really massive and impressive and not just a minor feature improvement. Now let's move on to product execution or analytical thinking. These questions usually come in 4 types. The first and the most common is the success metrics question. For example, how would you set goals or success metrics for Spotify? In such a question, what they're trying to get signal on is how deeply you understand this product, how you determine what things we should measure, how you would set goals, and how you would make decisions if you were in charge of this product. Next in at number 5 is the root cause analysis question. For example, Netflix's daily active users are down 10%. What should we do? In this question, what they're essentially testing is your ability to debug issues. The interviewer will most likely roleplay where you ask the interviewer certain questions and the interviewer answers with a yes or a no. What most candidates end up doing in this question is they have a very rigid checklist that they have created beforehand with maybe some basic questions, some internal issues, some external issues, and they just run through that. That is not sufficient. Interviewers can detect this very, very quickly. What they are looking for is a dynamic response, meaning that every answer the interviewer gives with a yes or a no should impact your decision making. And the way we detect that is that certain options in your static checklist will become invalid once the interviewer gives you a certain yes or a no answer. At number 6 is the trade-off question, which is one of my favorites. For example, as a PM on YouTube's newsfeed, how would you determine between showing regular thumbnails for long-form content versus thumbnails for short-form or vertical content? In such a question, what they are testing is how you actually determine success for the product, how you balance different features against each other, how you run experiments and A/B tests. In at number 7, and the last type of a product execution question, is the good old estimation question. For example, how many ping pong balls will fit into a school bus? These questions are becoming a little bit more rare, And Google is usually the one who's known to run these questions, so it might still appear if you're interviewing with Google. Remember, in these questions, the final answer does not really matter. What they are essentially testing is your ability to break down a large, complex problem into smaller, easily digestible, and solvable problems. So those are all the product execution questions. Next up at number 8 is the product strategy question. An example of this question can be something like, should Google go into the healthcare industry? What they're essentially testing in this question is how you see the world and how you would tackle complex, large-scale global issues and how you make decisions. It is important to not be stuck to your opinions and demonstrate open, boundless thinking. Take this opportunity to riff with your interviewer, and this might end up becoming a great, fun thought exercise. And now for the final segment, let's talk about behavioral questions. Most people tend to underestimate the importance of behavioral questions because the usual thinking process is, oh, this is not technical, this is about me, and I know me better than anybody else. Well, here's a newsflash that's fairly obvious, but some people still miss it. Everybody knows themselves better than anybody else. So my 2 cents to you is to please take these behavioral interviews seriously. It is an opportunity for you to truly represent yourself as who you are and really shine in a way that your competition is not bothered to prepare for. The first and the most common behavioral interview question is, tell me about yourself. In at number 10 is, why do you want to work for company X? The remaining behavioral questions are all tell me about a time questions, starting with tell me about a time you failed. Tell me about a time a project succeeded. Tell me about a time when you had a conflict with someone. Tell me about a time when you used data to convince someone of something. And finally, tell me about a time when you had to convince leadership of something and how did you do it? Across all of these behavioral questions, what they are essentially looking for is to first just to get to know you better as a person and as a professional. So it is very important to have a story bank ready for all of these stories. Reflect on your career's interesting moments and create this story bank beforehand so that you have stories ready to go for each of these questions. And I highly recommend using a structure for communicating your thoughts on tell me about a time questions. The STAR framework is the industry standard and most famous framework. I personally use the H-STAR-L framework, which is a framework I developed myself, building on top of the STAR framework. More details about that are in the H-STAR-L framework video, which will be linked in the description. So there you have it, the 15 most popular product management interview questions. I hope you take note of these and get one step closer to your dream product role.